Hello, beautiful souls. I am in the noisy truck again. I seem to be out this week more than normal, but since we have some storms coming our way, maybe it's good that I got things done ahead of time. Snowstorms and ice storms, so that's New England, and I think this New England year has been pretty mild. I think that New England year's been pretty mild since Blizzard of 76, when a lot of things changed. 76 seems to be... Well, it seems to be a big time when it comes to esoteric planetary divination. So I want to talk about planetary divination, the holographic universe. Some people call it that. The fourth dimension, which is the water dimension. Above, below, within, without. And conquering the lower dimensions of those realms via yourself. A lot of people, including myself, turn to planetary divination and angelic work. And a lot of the Cabal divination, even if you call it angelic, actually... Oh, I got someone riding on the totally wrong side of the street here. Not surprising. But a lot of systems, especially mystery schools, they're all based on fourth dimension, planetary dimension. And some believe it's because you have to break through that realm, like I was talking about, because they're the kind of the guardians. And a lot of mystery schools teach, as I've said before, that you've got to take on these lower dimensional frequencies and teachers and things. And shamans do, most people do. You're working with the land, you know, you can contact land spirits without having spirits that don't have their own bodies except for within the fourth dimensional realm. You can work with those. So the things I'm going to say again are going to be blog, my own opinion, and if you haven't worked through the fourth dimensional realms, whether that be your cliff off or your shamanic stuff or any of those things, and you're out for physical power because you think that's where you're supposed to be in the stairs of life or the stairway to heaven kind of thing, that's where you are, man. And for these times, I'm not for talking about that. I'm talking about being your highest self or your highest ascended form that you can be in this physical domain at this time, because we're going through a time of great changes astrologically, fourth dimensionally, and religiously, which all that comes from the fourth dimension. Now, elites and elite people have always worked with planetary divination, especially Jupiterian, Saturnal stuff, for, you know, good luck and prosperity and all of that. And if that's the depth of your mind, go there. Stay in the fourth dimension. But the fourth dimension is ruled by rulers and things that know when you're going to break through the wisdom and the knowledge of planetary and star things and not feel that you have to be under your astrology or anything or anyone's astrology, which is what coming to the heart space is. Buddhists and stuff, talk about that as a timeless realm where you're outside of space and time, but fully within the self, present in this moment. That's escaping the matrix. That's escaping fourth dimension and fourth dimensional people, in my opinion. Again, it's a vlog. I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to teach you to skip steps that are unnecessary in my book. Maybe not in your gurus and not in your mystery schools, but I'm not under those things. And you can say, oh, like, well, you're still under, you know, the planets and the stars and time and space here, whether you like it or not. Well, if that's your belief system, then you're never going to rise above it, which I taught before, even when I had fourth dimensional things inside of me, because they knew that. And if you work with them correctly, even though some of them are wanting to destroy you, if you can open the soul space within the self, which I've talked about how you do that and why, then those spirits are either absorbed or they have to bow to you and work for you. And since I'm not looking for power, popularity, the world's formulations of power, I'm looking for spiritual maturity, not like some people may call that power. And usually people who are out, sorry for my phone, looking for power and bent on power, they'll still tell you you're after power, or energy or whatever. But I'm for exiting the matrix and ascending as far as I can in this lifetime when the time for planetary divination and fourth dimension is being absolved. It's being moved out of the way, in my opinion. Now, you can say to me, like, how can we exist in a realm without time and space controlling us? Well, we do that from the heart, whether we're in this dimension or this dimension changes. And the Christian prophecies or Judaic prophecies or Islamic prophecies, some of these things all talk about a time when none of us are going to be under the dominion of those things. And some teach that they will actually no longer physically exist. Now, to me, that can be a reality because I don't believe we're dependent on the aspects of space that we think we are, because they're actually being spirits. They're not just lights in the sky to me. And yes, they function as that too. I function as a body here, as a human, but I know that I'm spirit because one day I'm going to leave this vessel, and since I'm not an atheist, sorry, I can't get this phone to stay. Since I'm not an atheist, I believe there is more to life than mortality and being mortal. I believe becoming the new man is being able to move beyond the state of a physical body before death. And a lot of the mystery school stuff is about that. I was with someone who literally worshipped the Samael, the Klipot, who didn't really know the truth of the Kabbalah or Judaism or Islam or any of those things. They were just messed up and wanted power. Like the Samael is literally the dog of God. It's literally like Samael and Lilith, and a lot of people really hate it when you say anything wrong about their Lilith because it's a fourth dimensional thing they're worshiping, and they think it's just about the shadow, and yeah, it is, but it's also as above, so below. And this symbology that is the Lilith was created in a very powerful system. Even though systems are not real, people worship them as if they're real, then talk about a matrix and that you can't talk about their gods, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you're a Lilith or a Samael, and I'm not talking about the proper way to work with those things, I'm talking about the demoted, murderous dog way of worshiping these things. It's evil. And so Lilith can be a fourth dimensional good thing to some degree if you're not using it just as a storyline, though you can. It's none of my business if you do. But if you use the storyline properly, she and Samael are murderers. And I'm not saying that that was the design of the proper way to use the tree. I'm saying that it's the way a lot of people are using the tree now because they're so messed up. And these are the people that are literally controlled by the fourth dimension negative entities and demons. So, if you want to believe that things in the fourth dimension are good, it's not my place to tell you that they're not good. I'm telling you stuff from my opinion, having worked through a lot of those things myself. Everybody's so into their working through their shadow nowadays, but they don't want to realize where the whole teaching and symbology comes from. And everything is about symbology. Everything here revolves around symbology and storylines. So, if you're going to delve into and use the name of a god or a goddess or a star or a system, you really should kind of know what you're doing, unless you're making up your own religion, which at some point when I was coming out of the Matrix, I realized, oh my gosh, I could do that. And that's what a lot of mystery schools teach you to do when you get into a certain level of, of where you're going with your power and authority. So it causes much chaos and abstraction, and a lot of following and a lot of toxicity as far as New Age religion goes. A lot of embodiment of people like, oh yeah, they go from being a drug addict to being this popular person, which I've talked about, the Sophia woman calling herself that and preaching her thing. But she got embodied, and I'll never believe anything else. Her whole personality changed. She denied her family, and all her upbringing made it all evil. Well, yeah, if she's embodied by something else, why does it want anything to do with her family or her past? Because it doesn't really know. It just knows that it can manipulate reality, so it does. And that's where she was at. So yeah, if you're thinking about going to Mount Shasta and working with fairies and land things and all that, realize, you shouldn't be opening yourself up with mega loads of drugs, because then, things can step into you. I always recommend microdosing for healing. Anything more than that in a journey, you better find yourself good people who are loving, who are not manipulating, which I put a video up this week about in my sharing posts about a woman empath was sharing that she believed that she believed that majority of spirituality is gaslighting and bullshit, and I totally agree with her. So the New Agers and all these people, fourth dimensional stuff, people getting embodied, is happening on a crazy level, and people are calling it, transcendence and all that, but it really is just chaos and mass confusion. And the fourth dimension is experiencing great entropy now, because it's switching up world powers. Now, whether you want to believe it's just a new age under a new star systems and new astrology of the Aquarian age, or you believe that eventually those things are going to be non-existent, and that's why we don't need to operate under them. Like, some people want to believe that there's going to be a new elite and a new star system and all that, and they're very sold out to that and channeling for star groups. I'm not. These things are spirits that have a time, just like we do, with all due respect to them, because I do respect them. Until I can make my own sunshine and light from the center and everything here can, we need those luminaries. But we've used their power to make false realities here and paradigms that have become vilely corrupt. And so, and if not vilely corrupt, kept us from our own evolution by just having us focus on, oh, you can't get here, you can't do that. If you're not meditating up in the Himalayas somewhere, not freezing to death and doing amazing things with your body, well then, you're not XYZ. Back to the Garden of Eden when it fell. If only you were like this and could do that and whatever, you'd be gods. But you're not, so you should take on a naga or a tree spirit or a fourth dimensional entity to teach you how to be, you know? So we're heading out of the fourth dimensional star story crap of the past ages and into something new. And I think that's beautiful, and I love it, and I think it's powerful. I don't see it as detrimental at all. Though there is going to be some experiences that will probably sort of be detrimental. We're going to have to go through a lot. You know, you can see that in the world right now. Just want to show you the sun going down over there, which is what I'm looking at. It's very cool. Kind of just parked here talking about these things. So is there a possibility that if you're not into this kind of stuff, I get it, but that we don't need the sun, moon, and the stars, and we can be lit from within like heaven, like another dimension, and we can have another time where, like when Saturn was pretty much a dying sun, people talk about, can we have another age where we're all enlightened and everything is lit from within? And I believe that, and I saw that once when I passed as a teenager, when I didn't even know what I was seeing. I thought I was in heaven. Well, kind of, it is heaven. It's heaven in that it's a place of the heart, in a realm of the heart, when we're all living in an enlightened time period. And in this time, the things from the past that gained entropy, that became devolved, they're going to be completely flushed out of the body system as a whole. Planetary, world, us, okay? If we're actually moving into an enlightened place. A new dimension comes down from above and fills the earth. That's light. That's the heart space. That's as above, so below, as within, so without. If it exists within, it can exist outside of you. And to me, like yogis holding space in the middle of nowhere, they're holding space for that here. If not, those things, you know, don't come in. So I'm not putting them down, not saying they're all evil. You know, people are what they are. They're that they are. But can we move into a space again when time was different? Like when the people left Egypt and traveled through the desert for 40 years and their shoes didn't wear out and they fed off manna from heaven, and their clothes didn't rot and they didn't get tired or diseased or sick or none of that unless they, you know, directly disobeyed. So as I said, we're going through a time period in reality when we're going back up, ascending through those old stories, you know, to another promised land, to another time period when we're having to make this exodus as a living being, internal being, and ascending up through this age and this wheel. And we're mirroring things from the past. So I think that, you know, we're going to move into a time of amazing ascension where people's bodies once again, you know, are cleared of disease and worms and parasites, be that ethereal or non. So all of the heavens, the waters, everything will be cleansed. Everything will be back to purity. And what spirits and things survive will be those things that will and can live out of the heart space. Like the Bible talks about separating the goats and the sheep. And it's talking about the goats used to be in the Bible the things that all the sins were put on and they were sent out into the desert, namely demons. And so that is going to be eliminated because there's no need for it, because sin was paid for. Because sin is something you keep within you because we're in a state of low energy and ignorance right now. nescience too, because there's a lot we don't know. And there's a lot we see and question because we're told reality is such and such, but yet it's malleable, flexible, isn't what we think it is, quantum physics and whatever. And I take that with a grain of salt because people use that to say there's no reality, whatever, and they're destructive. Well, make an excuse. What reality are you moving into then? Are you evolving, or are you just saying there's nothing, like an atheist? Or, are you making your own little world to go and sit in somewhere off and who knows where, whatever? Like, people do that. But also you've got to remember that fairy tales and 4D stories gonna go. They're all gonna have to catch up to the central being, to the sun, to the heaven, to the enlightened. So if they don't, then they're not going to be here. They're going to be destroyed. And some people believe this earth will stay the same and it'll go through, more cycles of whatever, and that, all the enlightened realms are here existing at once, like Buddhas and different people say. And, that may be the case. But if those of us who become enlightened, we're not going to see and feel the world in an entropic state. And I don't think it's going to be anything like we've ever known here since the yuga, the original, the first yuga, which I make fun of myself for calling Tretaria, on and on, because I make fun of that was Tartaria. And I believe that. Like, if you look at the Indian teachings of ancient times, even not so ancient times, like 1,000 years ago, they built amazing temples and had insane amounts of knowledge from being more enlightened. And we've all entropied since that time. Look at Byzantine temples that were built over the Greek temples and the sacrificial temples of giants and devolved minds from that time period, the original time period. Those angels of that time period fell. And the stories are just on repeat. We're just mirroring the past. So there's a holographic universe that mirrors ours and wants to merge with ours during this time I talked about for like the past 10 years, when I used to think I was channeling, when I was receiving from my God, my soul, myself, messages about how we were really literally overlapping dimensions. And we are, because people embody these fourth dimensional things, and because they think they're going to war against humans, wipe us out, and only they're going to exist. And they do have done this in cycles for a long time. But we're moving into an age where everything is getting more refined and enlightened until the earth doesn't exist as we know it anymore, because after the 12,600 year period, things go back to the monad and everything is recreated again. Things return to God, so to speak. So, if you call it that, or the one, or the source. Some people call it the monad. So we operate parallel to a holographic ancient universe, parallel to it, like the circle, or like some ancients show it as kind of an oval with a circle in between, and there's the holographic and the 3D universe. So mirrored images of you, I talk about doppelgangers, there's another word I mess up, spirits and such. And I used to say it right all the time, and then I met a woman who always called it doppelganger and not doppelganger, and it just messed me all up. I do this with words, always have. It's kind of funny. But I can also pick up on languages because of that and stuff really easy, and it's cool. Because my mind just works like that. I don't know how to explain things, other than it's different from my mind. So this holographic universe, mirrored universe of dead, old, past people, entropy, reliving and evolving through us is happening. But that's going to have to come to an end as we absorb all the negative parasites and things like that, and you shite them out. It's going to happen in the ethereal and in the heavens. Whether or not, that speaks of an absolving of things, I think it'll happen again. Like, things will fall from the heavens again, as they did, before the Christ reign 2,000 years ago, which is really only 1,000 years ago, in my opinion. So that happened. Like, the whole earth was ripped to shreds. It was no longer Israel was the center of the world. The world was all broken up. And people argue that, the earth wasn't all broken up and it took hundreds of millions of years, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how a spiritual cycle of an earth or a world exists. We're saying millions of years, but then we're saying it only has 12,600 years per monad, per created earth cycle. So it's arguable. If you want to say the earth is millions of years old, it can't hold the records of many, many, many millions of years. Or it very well could be only 12,600 years in our logical 3D physical time. Because Israel was the center of earth at one point, and then the whole earth broke up and was dispersed in the time of the Revelations, when we had the apocalypse and Christ left the earth with his people and all this stuff happened that I talk about. And the Unchristed being came down into man as the fifth dimension. And heaven, or the heart space, existed as enlightenment on earth for 1,000 years. But that was only a taste of time. Then the shaitan, the diluted energy, the fourth dimension, the bound stars and planets, had to have their reign again, and then they're going to be wiped out. And now I'm using this as a story for you to understand the cycles of the yuga or the universe. They're within us, first of all. And the fourth dimension distracts us to the fact that power and glory and everything's outside of us, and if you'd only do X, Y, Z, you could be God. But you're not God now, and so you can't be. And if you off someone, or you're a bad girl or a bad boy, or you were born with mental illness, you're evil, and so you've got to follow the twisted clip-off and the Lilith and the Samael that's backward, and that's dog instead of God, and this reverse holographic universe that you're a part of because you were absorbed by. All of those things are going to be moved out of our systems, bodies, physically, and this earth. The elite in those systems think they're going to control us once again and defeat us and wipe us out. That's their predictions. And if you think about it, world leaders are not in the place dimensionally where yogis and great spiritual teachers and enlightened and angelic beings are. They're not that, they're below us. So for them to come online and say and teach that, they're going to dominate us is ridiculous. It's not a reality. And that's why things are going crazy, because these parasites and things, they know they don't have much more time. The negative storylines we've built into the stars, into the sun, into the moon, these lies, they're going. And they're not the truth. So the lies in the shaitan, which is what that means, and the false light, the Lucifer, is leaving. The lies, the false created dimensional reality has to leave, and so do the storylines. And we will literally forget those storylines. It's why the Bible talks about how people there'll be no more sickness and crying and death, and we won't remember. Death will be just a stepping into the next dimension when we want to go. It's not going to be a physical dying. And if you read about the ancient times before the land of Mu was ripped up, which originally was all the land masses as one, which I'm saying didn't happen eons ago. It happened not real long ago. And there's physical evidence of the world of that's coming forth. That's because the lie is dying and these elites are losing, And the yogis and those enlightened peoples who have held space for this time, they're going to be the ones who uplift and hold up the world. There's a lot of lower level yogis that worship the shaitan, or some people call the Shiva. I'm not putting the goodness of that teaching down. I'm simply saying there's people that have twisted that into just negative, destructive energy, not positive, destructive energy. Now, positive, destructive energy would be like you going through an internal cleanse, and then it's a little rough, but it doesn't kill you. It's not to destroy you. It's to bring out the toxins and make a new terrain. Rebuild the temple as a body. So, holographic universe is something you can get really caught up with, but it's still the fourth dimension. It's still the lie of a shaitan, of a lower dimensional entropied age that people have played with. That's got to move on, and that's just my opinion, and that's what a vlog is. Thank you.